Hi, everyone. This is Steve Turnbull at First Lutheran Church. Back to you again this week to look forward to the next chapter in the Big God story. We started a couple weeks ago at First Lutheran rereading the story of the Bible, beginning in Genesis and going through Revelation, learning the story that holds the whole Bible together. We started with the story of creation 2 weeks ago, the story of God creating a good and perfect world and giving us a good place in it. We also read the next week the story of the fall, of the entrance of human sin into our lives and into the world, and of some of the fracture and the brokenness and the shame and the hiding that results in our lives because of that. But we enter a new and hopeful chapter this week as we begin to see the kind of salvation that God plans to give the world. We learn something about God's unstoppable love for humanity. We're reading this week the story of God's call of a couple, a man and a woman named Abraham and Sarah. As we learn about Abraham and Sarah, we see a lot about how God works in our lives. In fact, we see God making Abraham and Sarah two promises. And as we look at these, I want to ask you to think about a couple things as we look forward to Sunday. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this and look forward to interacting with you in the comments on this blog post or also just talking to you about it on Sunday. The first thing that we see God promising Abraham and Sarah is that he promises to bless them. And in concrete terms, in their lives, that meant to bless them with many descendants, a big family, and some level of prosperity in the world. These were just real practical blessings, and God wanted to see those blessings poured out in Abraham and Sarah's lives and the lives of their descendants. One of the things that I want you to think about as we look forward to Sunday is how has your experience of God's blessings gone in your life? I don't just mean what are the blessings God has given you, though I think that counting our blessings is a really helpful spiritual exercise, that it helps cultivate real gratitude in us. But I also mean when you have received blessings from God, how has that experience gone for you? Because sometimes I think we struggle with, on the one hand, guilt over receiving God's blessings in our lives, when in fact, it is God's will to bless us. God wants us to enjoy his blessings in this life. As a father blesses his children and wants them to enjoy their lives, so God wants to pour out blessing also in our lives. Sometimes we feel guilty about that, but then sometimes we also abuse that, and we just think that we can trigger God to give us blessings, or we manipulate God into blessings, or that's all God is there to do, is just to grant our every wish. Or sometimes we hoard our blessings or act greedily with them. I'd just be interested to know some of your thoughts on what it is that maybe has been helpful in your life or other people's lives in receiving God's blessings with gratitude and joy. But the other side of this promise that God makes to Abraham and Sarah is that he promises that they will be a blessing to the rest of the world. And I think probably many of us have experienced that there is at least as much joy in blessing others as there is joy in receiving blessing ourselves. I wonder how your experience of that has gone. Do you have any stories that you might share with others in the comments on this blog of where you have seen that working really well? When have you seen people being a blessing to other people? As we come to this Sunday, one of the things I want to share with you is some lessons about the way that God blessed Abraham and Sarah and worked through them to bless the world, and the way that he works in our lives to do the same thing. And I also want to share with you this Sunday an inspiring story, I think, a story that's touched my heart, about a young girl in our congregation who caught this vision for sharing the blessings that she enjoys from God and also making them a blessing to the rest of the world. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this and also seeing you on Sunday.